ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नमः श्री शंकरानंद नमः श्री शंकरानंद गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलास महामोह सविलास महामोह ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे। भिद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिः छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे. We saw the 7th verse, which is a straight quotation from Mundaka Upanishad. The whole subject matter of discussion here is that by the knowledge of Brahman or the knowledge of the self, one becomes completely free from all suffering and one attains unsurpassable happiness. This is the point that the author seeks to make through these verses. And various doubts arise in conveying this meaning because when you quote one passage from Upanishad which clarifies certain point, it also creates the question. So this is how the discussion goes on. It's like if you present a certain argument in favor of your case, that follows raises a question. So when that argument resolves a certain point, it raises another question, for which you again present another argument, which resolves that point and raises another question. That's how the discussion goes on. So that's how these scholars and the learned people enjoy, the scriptures. So here also, the author keeps on presenting one passage after the other in clarifying a point, and that very passage brings up yet another point, for which he presents another passage which clarifies one point and raises another point, and thus the discussion goes on. So what we are doing here is clarifying or making it clear how knowledge of the self or knowledge of Brahman makes one free from all the suffering and simultaneously brings about the attainment of total or unsurpassable happiness. In support of that, it was said, Vidyate hridayagrantihi, how by the knowledge of the self, all the complexes of the heart, all the complexes that one entertains about oneself, all those conclusions or judgments about oneself, which are the source of pain, various complexes alone create in me source of fear, reactions. So all those complexes are cut asunder. Chidyante sarva samshayaha, various doubts I have about the self and about the world also. And these doubts always keep me uncertain. And doubts also create lots of fear. Those doubts are also completely resolved. Kshiyante cha asya karmani, and there is destiny. So there is a whole life which is not in my control. And I find myself at the mercy of the destiny also, meaning mercy at the mercy of the situations. I am at the mercy of my body, and so if the body is healthy, well and good. If it is not, then what? I am at the mercy of the situations, pleasure, heat, cold, pleasure, pain, honor, dishonor. All of these things keep on coming to me, and thus we find in our life there are all these conditions which are not under our control. So even though I may be free from all complexes and therefore there are no reactions, etc., as far as my own mind is concerned, but still, how about the situations that are not in my control? So they will cause pain. That is what is meant by karma. When Vedanta talks about freedom from karma, freedom from action, what is meant is, action is that which gives rise to result. Actions which we perform in the past, with for whatever reason, the results of those actions are what we are at the moment, which we are confronted with right now, and we find ourselves helpless with reference to the situations created by those actions. So when it is said that the wise man becomes free from the bondage of action, what is meant is wise man becomes free from the helplessness that one feels with reference to situations, because one is not able to control the situations. And for an ordinary person there is always a need to have a situation that is agreeable. Because in disagreeable situation I find myself reacting or unhappy or fearful. So wise man is also free from any kind of infliction that a situation can place upon him. As Swami likes to say, a person feels weighted by the whole world, as the whole world is out to grab me or attack me, and I always have to protect myself against the world. So this is one of the things that goes on with an individual. Let us call this karma. Let us call this the bondage of karma, because what I find myself confronted with is nothing but the product of karma, and therefore the wise man even becomes free from that. Meaning the wise man becomes free from all the internal difficulties which are created by various conclusions and complexes about myself, and also becomes free from all the external problems which are created on account of a sense of isolation or sense of separation or duality. And thus this knowledge brings total freedom from internal as well as external problems or situations. That is what this verse says, Tasmin Drashte Paravare. When one sees Paramatma, when one sees the self which is limitless, then that's all that is there, and therefore there is no duality, and therefore all these problems are resolved. Then the question was, is it purely the knowledge of the self that is the cause of moksha? Or should that knowledge be combined with karma or action? This argument is brought up again and again under the title of Jnana Karma Samuchaya. A samuchaya, or a combination of jnana and karma, a combination of knowledge and action. It is a technical point, but an important point, inasmuch as one wants to know what is the means for moksha or liberation. There are those who believe that karma or action in the form of rituals or action in the form of meditation, that is a cause or that is a means for liberation. There are others who believe that no, not only karma or action, but karma combined with the knowledge of the self, that is the cause of moksha. So you will find Shankaracharya again and again bringing up this point and refuting this point. The point that is made by Vedantic teachers is that it is merely knowledge of the self that is a means for moksha and nothing else. In short, having gained the knowledge, there is no need to do anything in order to become liberated. It is not there when one gains the knowledge that one stops performing action. But there is no compulsion to perform an action once having gained the knowledge, because knowledge is alone the means for liberation. Should a liberated person perform an action or not perform an action depends upon his sweet will. There is no compulsion or there is no injunction that he has to do given thing or not to do. But the point that is always sought to be made is knowledge alone is the means for moksha. Why is it so? Because what we call bondage is purely a product of ignorance. And therefore, Atma is not really bound. If the self were bound in reality, then you would have to release it. In which case, some kind of ritual or something would have to be done to release the self. If the bondage were real, then merely knowledge could not be a means for liberation. But inasmuch as bondage is not real, it is mithya. It is a notion, or bhranti, a delusion, born of the ignorance of the self. Therefore, the knowledge of the self releases this bhranti or notion, and that is how one becomes free. Now, that is a point that is brought up in the next passage here, on this book, page 369. Say the second paragraph, Nanu, Kurvan Neveha Karmani जिजीविषेत् शतं समाः एवं त्वयि नान्यथेतोस्ति न कर्म लिप्यते नरे. Various passages are quoted from Upanishads as well as from other texts. This is a statement from Ishavasya Upanishad, which says, Kurvan eva iha karmani jijivishet shatam samaha. One should seek to live for 100 years while performing one's duty. Performing duty means enjoined action. The action that are enjoined by the scriptures, depending upon one's station and place in life. Evam, only when you spend your time or live your life thus performing the actions. By actions are meant all the Vedic rituals, etc. Evam tvayi na anyatha itah asti na karma lipyate nare. If you want to remain untainted by the karma, meaning that if you want to remain untainted or not bound by the karma, then may you spend all your life performing what we call dharma or your duty, meaning the enjoined actions. So this is a statement. So this statement seems to mean that if you perform your karma or the duty, then you will remain untainted. And so somehow the statement seems to imply that it is karma or the action alone is the means for moksha. So that statement can be read that way. So here there is a Purva Pakshi, or the person who asks question, and he reads the statement of the Ishavasya Upanishad, the second mantra, in this manner, that look, this mantra says that if you perform your duty as enjoined by the scriptures, then you will not be tainted by action. That means you will remain untainted, you will remain free. Therefore, it seems that karma or action is the means for moksha. Then another statement is quoted from Ishavasya Upanishad. Vidyam cha yastad vedo bhayagum sah avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya amritamasnute. So again the 11th mantra of the Ishavasya. Vidyam cha avidyam cha. Vidya means knowledge, avidya means ignorance. And the word avidya or ignorance is interpreted as karma or action. For the simple reason that action involves duality. Action involves a sense of doership. And who can perform the action, deliberate action? Only one who takes oneself as the doer. And that alone, that shows that there is ignorance of the self. So deliberate action is possible only for the one who is ignorant, who takes oneself as a doer, and therefore that alone can perform the action. So action is a product of ignorance. So in this verse, in this passage, Vidyam cha avidyam cha. Avidya means action, vidya means knowledge. Yastadvira ubhayam saha. So interpretation of that passage is one who simultaneously performs knowledge as well as action. What happens to him? Avidyaya mrityum tirtva. He crosses mrityu or the death by ignorance, by karma. Vidyaya amritamasnute. Vidya, and by knowledge he attains immortality. So by karma or by action, this person crosses death, and by knowledge he attains immortality. Now, in the Ishavasya Upanishad, Shankaracharya spends a long time in discussing these passages, because these words Vidya, Avidya, all of these have to be properly understood in a given context. And there Shankaracharya explains the word Vidya generally means knowledge, but here the word Vidya is employed in the sense of upasana or meditation. So it looks as though the first impression that the verse creates is that this verse of Ishavasya Upanishad enjoins a combination of knowledge and action, but Shankaracharya explains that it does not enjoy a combination of knowledge and action, it enjoins only a combination of rich action and meditation. The word Vidya is to be understood as meditation and not the knowledge of the self. And therefore Shankaracharya explains how by performing one's duty one crosses death in the sense of raga dveshas, and how by performing the upasana or meditation one attains heaven, so the state of the Godhood, not Brahman but the Devata, and so Amrutattvam is to be understood in a relative sense. Then there is a passage in Bhagavad Gita. Karmanaivahi samsiddhim asthitaha janakadayah. This verse in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita says, the 20th verse. Janakadayah, and this is also an oft-quoted verse, that such sages as Janaka and others, samsiddhim asthitaha, they attain samsiddhi or perfection. Karmana eva, by action alone, they attain perfection. So Janaka is well known as a wise man. And his reference comes in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and in many other texts. So in the Indian mythological and spiritual literature, Janaka is known as a wise man. And he is referred to in Bhagavad Gita also. That look, sages such as Janaka, they attain perfection by karma or action alone. And so that passage also seems to indicate that action alone is the means for the means of liberation. And then there is another quotation, Yathannam madhu sanyuktam madhu chandena sanyutam evam tapasya vidyacha sanyuktam bheshajam mahat. Then there is another passage which says, Yatha annam madhu sanyuktam. If you mix honey with rice, madhu chandena sanyutam, or if you mix rice with honey, how it becomes, so instead of eating rice alone, if you add honey in there, so a combination of rice and honey gives you all the nourishment and energy. Instead of rice alone and instead of honey alone, if you combine them, then that combination becomes more effective than in each individual one. Evam tapasya vidyacha sanyuktam bheshajam mahata. See, in the Ayurveda, they ask you to take the medicine with honey. Many medicines are to be mixed with either ghee, clarified butter, or with honey. So that effect of the medicine is enhanced when you take it with honey. That's what is meant. So how a particular medicine when mixed with honey becomes, the effect becomes more enhanced. Evam tapasya vidyacha. And similarly also, tapa here means karma. If the ritual is combined with knowledge, then it becomes a real bhesham, becomes a real medicine to release one from the disease of samsara. So that Smriti Vakya also seems to indicate that the combination of the knowledge and action is a means for moksha. So these are statements quoted by Purva Paksha. In short, these statements here are taken up for discussion as to how to understand them. Ityadi smritescha kevalasya va jnana samuchchidasya va karmanah mukti hetutvam syat. Of these, have the statements seem to indicate that karma or action is a means for moksha. Another have the statements seem to indicate that the knowledge combined with karma is the means of moksha. So this is the question that is asked, and the answer is given that these statements have to be understood. See, this is, lot of debates are there because how to understand a given passage. Here we say that Vedanta is a pramanam, is a means of knowledge to the self. And Vedanta is nothing but the body of knowledge which is in the form of words. So for Vedanta to become pramanam or valid means of knowledge, we must know the tatparya, the purport of the statements of Vedanta. So how to understand the purport, for that lots of discussions sometimes become necessary, because there appear to be passages which appear to be contradictory to each other, and so to clarify those passages also is one of the tasks of texts such as Paṃcadaśī. Udaharta vakyasthalevi tapas shabdasya pāpa nivritti paratvad. The idea is that what is meant by vidya is not Brahma Jnanam, it is meant by upasana. And samsiddhi does not mean moksha, it means antahakarana shuddhi. And vidya does not mean knowledge of Brahma, it means upasana. And thus vidya shabdena cha upasanayaha vivakshatatva. Samsiddhi shabdena cha jnana sadhana chitta shuddhi abhidhanat. By word samsiddhi we have to understand the purification of mind. Vidya shabdena cha upasanayaha vivakshatatva. By the word vidya is meant upasana, meditation, and not brahmajnanam, na karmana mukti sadhanatvam. In short, the karma or the action, either alone or in combination with knowledge, is not the means for moksha. Ida abhiprayana, then what is the means for moksha? Knowledge, and knowledge alone is the means for moksha. Sadhanantara nishedhaparam. So the verse 8 here quotes a passage from Upanishad which says that knowledge alone is the means for moksha. When you say knowledge alone, that alone excludes everything other than knowledge. Meaning it excludes karma or combination of karma. There cannot be the means of moksha. Knowledge alone is the means of moksha. There is a famous statement in Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Tameva viditva atimrutyumedi nanyah pantha vidyate anayadi. Tameva viditva, knowing that self, mrutyumatyadi, knowing that self, one crosses the death. And crossing death means one attains immortality. Immortality means liberation. Immortality means freedom from mortality. Meaning freedom from death, freedom from time, so freedom from place, so freedom from everything. So immortality means freedom from mortality. And what is mortality? Limitation in time. So immortality means freedom from the limitation of time. And where the time is, the space also will be there, therefore freedom from the limitation of time and space. Meaning one becomes free from every form of limitation. And by knowledge alone, so knowing that self, one becomes free from all forms of limitation, and there is no other nanyah pantaha vidyate ayanaya. For ayanam, or for the ultimate destination, there is no other path. That is what is said in the verse 8 here. So we read the 8th verse. Tameva vidvanatyeti mrityum panthana chetarah jnatva devam pashahanihi kshinayh kleshairna janma bhag. Tameva vidvan atyeti mrityum panthana cha itarah. Tam puroktam paramatmanam vidvaneva. Knowing that Paramatma, knowing the self as the Paramatma, meaning the limitless, mrityum samsaram atyeti atikramati, one crosses death. Death means change. Death is something, death is not only the death of the body, which takes place at a given point in time, but death means the principle of change. That means the limitation in time. And therefore the mortality and the fear and the whole samsara is what is meant by the word death. So by the word death is meant, because death is the cause of fear. And fear represents all the other evils that there are in the samsara. So therefore the word death means samsara. So the Upanishad says one crosses the death, meaning one crosses the ocean of samsara. Nacha itaraha, there is no other path. Itaraha samuchaya rupa kevalah karma rupa pantha margo mokshopayo nachanaiva vidyate. That there is no other path leading to moksha, either action or combination of knowledge and action. Such passage or such path does not exist, only knowledge is the only path. So this says, by gaining the knowledge of the self, one becomes free from death. Meaning one becomes free from all the misery. Tavati shokam atmavit, the knower of the self crosses the grief. That's what is meant here. Tameva viditva atimrutyumedi. Knowing the self, one transcends the death. Meaning one becomes free from all the afflictions of life. Then a question arises. Nanu udahrutashu shrutishu anve vyatirekaabhyam aihika anishta nivruttiheva pradhanyena avhasate na amushmikhi. Says that you are saying that by gaining the knowledge of yourself, one crosses the death. All right. So you cross the death, meaning that you become free from all the fear and afflictions in this life. But how about the afflictions that may happen in the next life? So this passage that you have quoted seems to mean that the wise man becomes free from the afflictions or pain or suffering in this life, but that anvaya vyatirekabhyam. So when the ignorance is there, death is. Ignorance is not there, death is not there. So it looks like the Vidwan becomes free from here, the afflictions here, but pradhanyana avabhasate, that it looks like predominantly the Vidwan or the wise man becomes free from the afflictions here, na amushmaki. But then one doesn't become free from the afflictions hereafter. See, they are always worried about that. Because this is in the culture, This previous birth and next birth, all of these occupies the frame of, is in the psyche. And therefore man is not satisfied by the promise that he will become free from affliction in this birth, but he wants to know what will happen to me after this. He wants to be free forever. So the passage that you quoted appears to indicate that there is freedom from suffering or afflictions in this life, but what happens to the person in the next life? So here the author quotes another statement from Shvetashvatara Upanishad, which says that he becomes once and for all free from the whole process of birth and death. Amushmikasya anishtasya bhavi janma purvakatvat tasya sanidanasya abhava pratipadakam. There is a text called Naishkarmi Siddhi. The very first passage of this text, that is written by Sureshwaracharya. We have very often seen the reference of Naishkarmi Siddhi in Vedanta Sara as well as in this text. And the very first passage of the text, Naishkarmi Siddhi, outlines the whole cause of samsara. That we find in the people an instinctive activity or a natural activity to avoid pain and seek pleasure. This is a natural activity, instinctive activity you find in all the living beings. What is the cause of pain? Then he says, it is the body that is the cause of pain. Because when the body is there, then there is always a sense of mortality. There is always a sense of separation or division. And also with the body, there is pain associated with the birth and death and old age and disease. And therefore, it is really the association of the body that is the cause of pain. How does the association with the body come about? It comes about because of past actions. Whatever we have performed actions which can be classified as meritorious or vicious. And those actions, combination of them, gives rise to this body. So pain will be there as long as body or birth is there. And birth will be there as long as these actions, meaning dharma, the virtuous and vicious actions are there in the past. Or in the present also we keep on performing these dharma actions and again creating a series of bodies in future. So what's the reason for this dharma and adharma? Why are there these virtuous and vicious actions? Because raga and dvesha. Raga and dvesha. These are the impulses that I have. And because of these impulses, sometimes I perform so raga. There is naturally an activity to acquire something that is desirable, another activity to get rid of something undesirable, and that makes me perform various actions, which may be classified as dharma and adharma. So dharma and adharma are the products of raga and dvesha, likes and dislikes. Why are these likes and dislikes there? Where is the raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion? When there is duality. There cannot be raga dvesha within myself, meaning I cannot have love for my finger, or I cannot hate my thumb. In short, this love and hatred, or attachment and aversion cannot be within one. Attachment and aversion, both of them require duality. I can be attached to someone or something other than myself, or I may have hate or have aversion for again someone other than myself. There cannot be attachments and aversions for my own self. So attachments and aversions necessarily call for the existence of dvaita or duality. Well, alright, where is the duality from? Duality is from ignorance. Duality is a projection. That the same self appears to be many, or same self is looked upon as non-self. Why this kind of projection is there? Because of ignorance. Ignorance of whom? Ignorance of the self. Self which is one and non-dual is taken to be many, and that ignorance causes the projection. Projection causes duality. Duality causes likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes cause actions. Actions are there as the virtue and the vice, and they cause again the punya papa, and they cause his body, and that cause all the pain of birth, death, etc. So what's the cause of all the pain? Ajnanam, or ignorance. That is how in the very first passage in the Nishkarma Siddhi, Sureshwaracharya makes the case for knowledge, that one cannot become free from this pain unless there is a knowledge of the self. So if you remove ignorance, then the whole chain also gets removed. And therefore, once the ignorance is removed, naturally there is no next birth. And when there is no next birth, there is no question of any kind of afflictions possibly taking place in the hereafter, because there is no hereafter as far as the wise man is concerned. That's the answer. The question was, you say that by gaining the knowledge of the self, one becomes free from afflictions here. But what happens even to the wise man hereafter? Says, there is no hereafter for the wise man. The future birth, if it takes place, then alone there is a question of suffering. Tasya sanidanasya abhava pratipadakam. But there is no future birth, because that which causes the birth, namely the ignorance, that itself is destroyed. And that is the passage so in the Shvetashvatara which says, Jnatva devam sarva papa vashabahanihi kshinah kleshaihi janma mrityu prahanihi. Jnatva devam sarva pasha apahanihi. Knowing this knowing the self, sarva pasha apahanihi. One becomes free from all the pasha, all the fetters. Kshinaihi kleshaihi. And thus, when one becomes free from all the complexes, all the raga dveshas also go away. See, all the Patanjali in the Yoga Shastra tells us about 5 types of klesha. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha and abhinivesha. Says Patanjali says, first problem is avidya, ignorance of the self. That brings about asmita. That brings about a sense of individuality. Not knowing the self is one without a second and limitless, taking the self to be limited causes the sense of individuality, duality, isolation. From that arises raga. There is naturally an attraction or attachment to that which would be a source of pleasure for this ahankara or individual. And dvesha, there is naturally an aversion for that which is a source of pain. So raga and dvesha both are caused from ahankara or the sense of individuality. And these raga dveshas, when they become really firm, then they cause fear or an extreme attachment, hanging on to something. Because a fear is created, tremendous insecurity is created, and therefore one hangs on to something, like the body or something else. That is called abhinivesha. So these are called klesha. All of these are born of ignorance. Jnatva devam sarvapashabahanihi. When one knows the true nature of the self, then one becomes free from the sense of individuality and all the complexes. Kshinaihi kleshaihi janma mrityu prahanihi. And then all the raga dveshas go away. When there is no raga dvesha, then there is no action. See, all our actions are also caused by raga and the dvesha. I want to do something because I am attached to that, or that is the source of happiness. I want to do something in order to avoid unhappiness or acquire happiness. When raga dveshas are not there, there is no action. When there is no action, there is no dharma. There is no punya papa. There is no next birth. And that's how one becomes free from the afflictions hereafter. Iti Shvetashvatara Vakyam Arthatah Patati. This statement of Shvetashvatara is what the author explains in the second line of the 8th verse. Jnatva devam pashahanihi kshinaihi kleshaihi na janma bhag. Jnatva devam, knowing the devata. You know what is the meaning of the word deva? Deva means God. But the derivative meaning of the word deva is Dyutanat devaha. Dyutanat devaha. Dyu means to shine. So the one who is shining is called Deva. So shining one is called Deva. Ever the sun is called Deva because he is shining. The moon also is Deva. Fire also is Deva. So all the shining or the luminaries are all called Devas because they are all shining ones. But who is the real Deva? Lord Shiva is called Mahadeva. Har Har Namaः Parvati Pate, Har Har Mahadeva. Lord Shiva is called Mahadeva, the great Deva. Why is he called the greatest of all the Devatas? Because Tameva Bhantam Anubhati Sarvam. When he shines, then everyone shines. Just as the moon shines only when the sun shines. So moon shines after the sun. So moon can also be called a luminary, all right, but not in its own right. The moon shines because the sun illumines that. Similarly also, all these devatas, like the sun and the moon and whoever the devatas are, all of them are shining because of whom? Because of the self or because of Shiva. Therefore he is called Mahadeva. So real Deva, the real shining one, is the one who is self-effulgent. Other devatas have their power, their strength, their illumination because of the self. That's why Lord Krishna says, we are chanting the 15th chapter, Yadaditya gadam tejah jagat bhasayate khilam yat chandramasi yat chagnau tat tejo vidhimamakam. Says Lord Krishna, that look, the light which is there in the sun and the moon and the fire, know that to be my light. Meaning, it is I who illumine the sun and the moon and the fire, which in turn illumine the rest of the creation, and through them, therefore, I alone illumine the creation. I am the self-effulgent one, and everything shines after me. So real Deva, the real effulgent entity, is the self, who is self-effulgent. Everything else shines after that. So says this passage, Jnatva Devam Pashahani. So knowing the Deva, knowing the self-effulgent one, which is Brahma, which is non-separate from the self, Jnatva Aparokshataya Anubhuya, knowing him as the very self, knowing, having that intimate or immediate knowledge of the fact that the self is Brahman, which is self-effulgent. Pashahani, all the bondage are destroyed. What are bondage? Sthitasya kama krodhadinam sarvesham pashanam hanir bhavati. All the kama, the krodha, kama means the passion or lust, krodha means anger. All the lust and anger and passion and greed, all of these go away. There is no need for them. Knowing the self to be Brahman, the limitless, where is the need for any desire? And when there is no desire, where is the question of disappointment of the desire? And when there is no disappointment of desire, there cannot be anger. Anger arises only when the desire is thwarted or desire is stifled. When there is no desire, there is no question of anger. See, when the desire is fulfilled, then there is greed. When desire is not fulfilled, there is anger. But then, the desire is there only when, as long as one feels sense of limitation, but the kama, krodha, lobha, all of these impulses, they go away in the wake of the discovery of the fact that the fulfillment, the limitlessness which I am seeking is my own self. And thus, the wise man becomes free from all raga dveshas, all kama, krodha. Kshinehi, kleshehi, na janma bhag. It is raga dvesha that are pushing us to next birth, Raga dvesha, the likes and dislikes, push us to next birth also. They push us constantly from one action to the other action. Otherwise we'll be totally relaxed. Right now I'm compelled to do something. I don't enjoy that leisure. I don't enjoy that relaxation because there is something within me that compels me to do something. And what is that? Raga dvesha. I want this or I want to get rid of this. If I don't have it, I'll be unhappy. If I have it, I'll be happy. So I find myself unhappy in absence of something, or I find myself unhappy in presence of something. If I am unhappy in presence of something, I should get rid of that. If I am unhappy in absence of something, I should get that. And now that sense of unhappiness or a discontentedness which is there within keeps on propelling me to perform actions. And that action creates the result, and that creates the ground for the subsequent birth. So here the wise man has no impulse of that kind because he is totally relaxed, totally at leisure, totally free from any sense of dissatisfaction or unhappiness. Therefore, na janma bhag, there is no further birth for him. भावी जन्म हेतु कर्मारंभ अयोगाच्च तत्र प्राप्नोति. Since there is no karma, because there is no raga dvesha, there is no raga dvesha because there is no ignorance. Therefore, wise man becomes free from the very next birth. When there is no birth, there is no hereafter for the wise man, and therefore there is no question of any afflictions hereafter. In short, by this knowledge, one becomes totally free from afflictions here and hereafter. That's the idea. Okay, so all this is argued with reference to the scriptures. But what is the practical thing, he says? Next question is, Nanu shoga tarnadi phalam shruyate eva na anubhuyate. This is all fine in scriptures, he says. All of this we learn from the scriptures. And that is fine. Na anubhuyate. We don't find it in practice, he says. Why? Jnaninamapi ishtanishta prapti pariharatham pravritti darshanat. He says we find that even enlightened people, even learned people also, I should say, not enlightened, but even learned people also, we find also are propelled by the desire to acquire, to acquire that which is desirable and get rid of that which is undesirable. We find that even learned people also are not free from these impulses. So you say that by knowledge one becomes free from ragadveshas, but we find that even learned people also have ragadveshas, likes and dislikes, because we find also in learned people this activity on their part to acquire something that is desirable and to get rid of something that is undesirable. We find this in them also. So maybe the scriptures say that by the knowledge one becomes free, but that does not appear to be a matter of our practical observation. Says no, that's not right. Iti ashankya dhrudha aparoksha jnaninam tat abhava pratipadana param. Says no. Where the knowledge is not there, or where the knowledge is not yet become abiding or spontaneous, there you may find this activity. Not only should we have knowledge, but we should have what we call abiding knowledge. And then alone one becomes free from all desires. Because when knowledge is not abiding, sometimes the role impulse again take hold of us momentarily, which is called the viparita buddhi or the habitual error. And so one again perhaps may find having ragadveshas. But when all the habitual error also is eliminated, when one has abiding knowledge, then we will not find in that wise man any kind of an activity, pursuing something, running after something, or running away from something that is not for a wise man of abiding wisdom. An ignorant person runs after something or runs away from something. Always. You are always running. Physically, even if you are not running, mentally you are running. Running after something, chasing something, or being chased by something. Either we are chasing the pleasure, or we are being chased by the pain, and so we run. And thus constant running is going on, but the wise man becomes free from this. He doesn't chase the pleasure, nor does he want to avoid the pain, because he is free from this pleasure and pain. But that also is, that point is made by a quotation from Kathopanishad. See, Kathopanishad very clearly says that when one has this abiding knowledge, then there is no harsha and shoka. Adhyatma yogadhigamena devam matva dhiro harsha shokau jahadi. Adhyatma yoga adhigamena, by the Adhyatma yoga, by the yoga of Adhyatma, by the yoga of the self, by the knowledge of the self, devam matva, knowing the self, devam, knowing the devata, meaning knowing the self, dhiraha harsha shokau jahadi. Dhira means wise man gives up the harsha and shoka, or elation and depression. Iti katashruti vakyam arthatah pathati. This statement from Kathopanishad is what is explained in the verse 9. Devam matva harsha shokau, devam matva harsha shokau, jahatyatraiva dhairyavan, jahatyatraiva dhairyavan, Nainam krita krite punya, nainam krita krite punya, pape tapayatah kvachita, pape tapayatah kvachita. Devam matva harsha shoko jahati atraiva dhairyavan. Dhairyavan, that's another word commonly used in the scriptures. Dhairya. Dhairya means fortitude. But real fortitude is commitment. So dhairyavan, one who is committed. Brahmacharyadi sadhana sampannaha, one who is endowed with all these preparations of brahmacharya, etc. So man of self-control. And therefore one who has total control over one's own self, one's own sense organs and the mind, is here called dhairyavan. Because such a person alone is fit for this knowledge. If the mind and the sense organs are not abiding, it is not possible to gain an abidance in this knowledge. So dhairyavan. Devam matva. Knowing matva means avagamya. Knowing the self. Which self? Chidananda adi lakshanam. Knowing oneself is Chidananda. Chit means awareness. Ananda means happiness. So knowing oneself as a very embodiment of awareness and happiness. Avagamya. Atraiva asmin neva janmani harsha shoko jahati. Right in this birth itself, he becomes free from the reactions of harsha and shoka. Interestingly enough, both elation and depression, both are reactions. Harsha. Harsha means an impulse of happiness that comes. When I come across something that I love or like, then that impulse of happiness that comes from within is called harsha. And by the same token, when I come across something that I dislike, then another impulse that comes from within is called depression or shoka, grief or so harsha and shoka. Both of these are looked upon as reactions. Why should happiness also be called reaction? When I am confronted with something that I love, and therefore when that impulse of happiness is there, why is that undesirable? According to them, the impulse of happiness is as undesirable as the impulse of unhappiness. Why is it so? Because if your happiness depends upon something, then that something can make you unhappy also. So you see some people become so happy when they meet somebody, when they do something, or whatever. So when they come across something that is desirable, or they like, they become so happy, jump in joy. The very same people also feel totally depressed when they meet the opposite of that. So it is like that seesaw. This person's mind can never be steady. When my happiness and unhappiness depend upon the situations, I always keep on reacting, and therefore the mind always is going up and down. There is never a steadiness of the mind. So harsha is rajas and shoka is tamas, and what we want is sattva. Sattva means a balance, not dullness. Very often when you talk of balance, it just doesn't appeal in the present situation. But we want excitement, and everybody wants excitement, but excitement is rajas. Because when something can excite me, something can depress me also. Either very same thing can depress me or something else can depress me. But the real happiness is the effortless cheerfulness or the joy which is there. It's not a reaction. A reaction is something that occurs on account of something else. This happiness is on account of my own self. So wise man is free from the reactions of harsha and shoka, of elation and grief both. And that is what is said in the next passage, next line of this verse. Nainam krita kurre punya pape tapayatah kvachita. That is based on another passage from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Nainam krita krute tapatah. Kruta and akruta. Kruta, that which is done. Akruta, that which is not done. So whatever done and not done, nothing create any reaction in the wise man. See, what it means is, Purvam akrutam punyam, krutam cha papam, tattvavidah, tapahetur na bhavati. Earlier it was said, etameva tapennaisha chinta karmagni samvati. In the fifth verse it was said, the wise man is no more scorched by the fire of action. Meaning a wise man doesn't have a sense of regret as to how come I failed to perform that punya karma or how I can perform the papa karma. That kind of a sense of regret the wise man does not have. Here this verse says even something more than that. Formerly it was said that punya which is not performed and papa which is performed, they do not create any sense of regret. Here this verse says that even the punya performed or not performed, papa performed or not performed, do not create any reaction. In short, the past punya karma also create reaction in the form of harsha, past papa karma create the reaction in terms of shoka, and wise man is free from both these reactions of harsha and shoka. Says tapo nama chitta vikara visheshaha. What is called tapa? Chitta vikara. When the mind reacts, any kind of a reaction is called affliction. Any kind of reaction is called affliction. Punyam krutam sat harsha lakshanam vikaram utpadayati. When you perform punya karma or virtuous action, that results into a happy situation and that creates in one the reaction of happiness. Akrutam vishadam. And if you don't perform punya, it creates vishada, unhappiness. Papam punaha tadvaiparittyena akrutam harsham utpadayati. If papa karma you don't perform, creates harsha. Krutam vishadam, papa karma you perform, creates vishada. In short, harsha and vishada, elation and depression, both of these are reactions and wise man is free from both the reactions. See, it is interesting, you observe now that when you get even elated, when you get overjoyed, when you come across something, then also you lose all sense of proportion. When a person becomes too happy, then also loses sense of proportion. Thus says things which should not be said and does something that should not be done. Very out of the impulse of happiness, we become so happy that it becomes unreal. In the sense that you are not in the real world and then you lose what we call the sense of proportion. In too much happiness, that a reaction of happiness, person says things and does things which should not be done. And again, when I become depressed, then also I say things and do things which are also improper. So both these reactions of harsha and shoka cost me what we call the sense of proportion. So wise man doesn't come under the sway of harsha and shoka. That is called freedom, where you do not come under the sway of anything. That is called freedom. When I find myself coming under the sway of anything, of the situation, if the situation can create in me fear, that means I am under the sway of situation. If the situation can create me even the joy, again I am under the spell of situation. The situation can create in me sadness, again I am under the spell of situation. So this, what we call the joy, or the sadness, or the fear, all of these are reactions. And all of these are created because I come under the spell of situation. That means that I am not free. So what is freedom? Freedom is freedom from coming under the spell of the situation also. That is called freedom. In that sense, wise man is free. And therefore, situations cannot create any reactions in him. And therefore, harsha, shobha, vitaraga, bhayak, krodha. Says Gita, vitaraga, bhayak, krodha. He is free from raga, attachment, bhaya, the fear, krodha, the anger. So fear, anger, attachment, elation, all of these are reactions which are created by situations. One who is subject to these reactions is not yet free from the influence of the situations. Wise man being free from their influence, therefore he is free from reactions. That is the whole idea of freedom. So understand that freedom means freedom from reactions. Nothing else. Not that you don't interact with the world, not that you don't enjoy the world, but then you do not come under the spell of the world. That's called freedom. So when you react with overjoy, there also is a reaction. Joy is fine, but reaction shows bondage. And thus, what this verse says is, Krita krute punya pape enam na tapayatah kvachita. No situation ever creates any kind of reaction in him. Situations can be of two types, favorable and unfavorable. Favorable situation is a result of punya karma, the virtuous action. Unfavorable situation is the product of papa karma, or what we call the unbecoming action. And these are the two kinds of situations that we confront again and again. Neither situation creates any reaction in the wise man. Avikriya Brahma Rupatva Jnanad Abhipraya, because he knows himself as Brahman, and Brahma is Avikriya, meaning free from all vikara, free from all modifications. So he knows himself as a self, which is Brahman, which is free from all the modifications, and therefore there is no reaction occurring in him from any situation. And situations are the product of punya and papa. As you said, situations can be classified two ways, favorable or unfavorable. Favorable situations is what we like, and they are the product of past punya karma or virtuous deeds. Unfavorable situation is what we dislike. They are the products of papa karma or vicious deeds. And both of them create in us reactions. Why these things do not create any reactions in wise men? This is called dhairyavan, one who is really having that fortitude, really abiding in the self, and therefore free from reactions. So the question was that we find that even learned people also react with elation and depression. It says no, a wise man does not react with elation or depression, because he abides in the self like ocean, which is calm in its bottom. And so also the wise man enjoys that calmness, that serenity, that tranquility. Regardless of what storms are there on the surface of the ocean, how the real bottom of the ocean remains totally unaffected, remains calm, and so also the wise man remains calm in and through any kind of situations. So that also is another characteristic of freedom. So thus this freedom or moksha alone is being explained in different ways. We said that this is moksha where there is freedom from reactions of harsha and shoka. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.